Per usual, living on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So let's take a look at some alts. And it's going to be a long video. It always is. Probably might be an hour. I don't know. I haven't recorded it yet. I will put timestamps in the description of the video so you can click to various coins as you go along. I'll be going down by market cap, which is now a more meaningless stat than ever. But that's just one way to analyze this stuff. This is more or less a quick screening for me personally to see, should I buy any of this stuff? Is any of this stuff trending? Is it at lows? Is it exhausted at the highs? Whatever. I'll be using the same indicators for everything. And you'll see USD charts on the left, BTC charts on the right. I had a request to add watermarks, so that's what I've done, even though they're pretty much hard or impossible to read most of the time. Just as an additional descriptor for those mobile viewers, 80% of you or whatever percentage it is who watches from their phone. It's a high percentage in laptop. You can see what I'm using in the top left. I know it's hard to read. I will put the links for all the charts, top left of each panel here. I'll put the links for all the charts in the description of the video below. And before I lose most of you, statistically, by the end of this video, like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Okay, so we'll start with total market cap minus BTC. The ticker for this in TradingView is total 2, TOTAL number 2. And this sort of sets the tone, at the very least, for what to expect when you're looking at these alt charts. Is it breaking above the 200? Is it breaking above the cloud? Is it trending? Is it whipsawing all over the place? This is mostly going to be ETH here, but all of the others, 127 billion. So all of the other alts are factored in here, obviously. And generally what I'm seeing here is mean reversion attempts, confirmation of support attempts. In a vacuum where this sits on the cloud is definitely a buy, because you had your breakout, you had your Kijun bounces, you had your bullish continuation. We have another Kijun bounce here. Unfortunately, very few alt charts actually look like this. Most of them are below the cloud, below the 200. Most of them, there is no signal here. It is just all over the place. It's ranging. I think 95% of these are a big avoid for me based on that alone. You may see me bounce around timeframes slightly up and down. For some of these DeFi coins, I had to go down a little bit. And I just want to mention Tether quickly again, because if Tether's been above $1 since January this year, we've been bullish for the most part, all right, since March. It's weird. There's no single metric here that's helpful, because from December to March, Tether below $1 was bullish for the most part. Tether above $1 was bearish for the most part. Since March, Tether above $1 has been bullish. Tether below $1 has been bearish or neutral. And Tether above $1 again has been, we'll say, bullish. Okay, it's not below $1 yet. If Tether slips below $1, I expect the entire market, everything, to go neutral to bearish. I do not expect strong bullish continuation from anything if Tether starts dipping below $1. It may represent a supply-demand metric that isn't exactly apparent. It doesn't exactly make sense. You know, people aren't moving out of Tether and into crypto if Tether demand is down. It's more or less, if Tether demand is up, people are buying crypto. I don't know. There's no real logic here. I'm just watching what the trend has been. All right, so on the left side, we got the USD chart. Right side, the BTC chart. This is XRP. I'll be using the cloud without the lagging span, the 200 EMA on the daily, VPVR, volume, yearly pivots, RSI. That's it pretty much on every chart. Because if you're consistent and you're using the same indicators, you can pretty easily say, you know, this looks like this looks like that isn't a buy, this is a buy. Most alt charts look like this right now, below the cloud at the 200. Is that a strong signal for anything? No. Is it a mean reversion? Yes. Is it a soft buy? Sure. But am I going to buy it in a vacuum? Probably not. Especially considering for XRP's case, it has failed to stay above the 200 for any extended period of time since 2018, since 2017. It's really not stayed above the 200 EMA. And why am I using the 200 EMA? It's a strong litmus test for the trend in general, the strength of the market. you look at the BTC chart, it's even more obvious that this is just lethargic at lows, ranging. But to me, this is a stronger buy than this USD pair because it has a chance of flipping above the cloud above price. It's been ranging for a year plus. The actual coin notwithstanding, in a vacuum, this is a pretty decent trade here. I'd be watching for 3K sats, this VPVR zone, and a move to 4,500 sats, 5,000 sats, something like that, wouldn't be out of the question. Nothing to comment on RSI. And then the volume here is most certainly Jed McCaleb selling XRP. He's got billions of it, and he's probably algoing it on the USD chart. So if you're thinking XRP USD is going to moon, you're trading against someone with billions of coins, aka a whale, who is hell-bent on selling all of it eventually. So good luck with that. This is Link, and again, it's mean reverted past the Kijun at this point. It's still above the cloud. It's still a ways down from the 200. Really a bunch of mixed signals here. It's at the R5 yearly pivot. So it's hard to convincingly buy this at the highs for me until these trend metrics reset, because we could potentially just go back to the 200, could potentially just go sideways. There's no strong bullish continuation here yet. And the BTC pair is even more impressive in that it's held above the 200 for this long. If it returns to the 200, to me, that's a strong buy. Yeah, it would be below the cloud, but historically, over the past year and a half, 2 years, it's been a great buy opportunity. I think it's definitely overextended. I don't think you need me to tell you that. But if I'm looking for support, it's the 200. There's no volume up here relatively to where volume has been. That's another cautious indication here. There's no strong buying up here. So my guess is if this starts to roll over below 001, for example, I think it quickly mean reverts to the 200. And the same for the USD pair. If this breaks 10, it probably mean reverts to 750 pretty quickly. I don't think it then continues bullish rebounds from there immediately, but I think it's just a good buy for my mean reversion. Another thing you could watch for is a bullish divergence on RSI, which you'd have to get a second low for that to happen. So this is probably 2 weeks out from having an entry determination. Looking at Bitcoin Cash, this is just a strong avoid forever for me. I mean, look at this BCH BTC pair. All-time lows. I expect it to continue to go to all-time lows. They have infighting. They have a fork coming up or already happened. I don't know. I don't care. This in a vacuum is never a buy anyway. It's just ranging. Turtle soup, random walk, whatever you want to call it. Strong avoid on every metric. And if you want to buy all-time lows, go for it. But nothing's more bearish than the slow bleed. And that's what's continued to happen on the BTC pair for Bcash. LTC, again, below the cloud, below the 200. Ranging, no real strength here. And the BTC pair has continued to sell off since 2018. Tried to revisit the highs in 2019, was unable to, and it's just been a strong doom to the core candles here all day long. What you'd be looking for again is a bullish divergence. So this is the weekly, but you'd be looking for a bullish divergence. So a lower low with a higher RSI, which looks completely possible here. You'd also be looking for a bullish TK cross, which is probably 2 to 6 months away at this point. Price needs to bottom first. It's not inconceivable that it revisits the all-time low here. There's no strength here. You know, there's no reversal signs. There's no strength signs. There's no bearish exhaustion signs. It's just kind of sideways listlessness, nonplussed, non-impressive. That's an avoid for me. BNB USD and BNB BTC, these actually look pretty good trend-wise. You know, if I had the ability to make a exchange coin basket, I think now would be the time. It's probably 6 months, 3 to 6 months past the time to do that. But most of these exchange coins look pretty good. So Binance, I painted this diamond pattern. If it's at the bottom, it's a bullish reversal. If it's at the top, it's a bearish reversal. So this is one of the best examples, probably in all of crypto ever, of a diamond top. Just super tight, super volatile, and it perfectly broke where you'd expect it to. This one's a little looser. This was like a 65% drawdown and took like a year to happen, but I think the case for it's still there. Nonetheless, it's above the 200, it's above the cloud, it bounced on the Kijun. It's basically back at highs already. This looks like a strong contender for bullish continuation. The better entry is obviously when it breaks the 200, it breaks the cloud. One thing to pay attention to here is when the quarterly burns happen. I bet if you line those up on this chart, you'd see some things, but I didn't. But that's something to look into. And the BTC pair looks great. It's above the 200, it's above the cloud. This is probably the best looking chart out of all these, I don't know what, 30 charts I'm looking at here, which is somewhat surprising, but it looks really good. BSV again, strong avoid, would never touch it for any reason ever. But thankfully the trend metrics back me up here. Below the 200, below cloud, potentially inverse Eve Atom situation here with a horizontal at like 150. This breaks 150, it probably goes to 100. I don't know. It's not for me. And BSV BTC had this, crazy scam candle, and ever since then it's just been down. Again, strong avoid. No reason to touch this at all unless it hits all-time lows at 0. Then maybe I'd throw $1 at it. Cardano. So some of the alts look like this especially the BTC pair, which had this super strong move super quickly, and it's down 40% from the highs. So again, it's like, yes, both of these are mean reverting. Both of these are basically at their yearly pivots. They're below the cloud. Some mixed signals here, certainly. Not a strong buy, but certainly a better buy than, at any point down from this 40% drop, right? The risk reward isn't on your side for a purchase here, in my opinion. Not seeing any bullish divs yet on RSI. If we do get a second low here, a lower low with a higher low in RSI, then for sure it's a stronger buy. You just have to know that you're not on trend with that buy. This is a bearish trend at this point, pretty clearly, on low time frames. And again, this lines up with the fundamental market event of the coin moving from something to proof of stake. So as soon as proof of stake got released and the rewards got distributed, it's just been selling. Supply demand. Another thing you'll notice is if you know anything about Wyckoff accumulation or Wyckoffian whatever, very similar type setups here with a spring, and off it went. Obviously that's hindsight and useless at this point in time, but always good to know that what to look for in the future. EOS, USD, and BTC. Again, it's below the cloud, below 200. Unexciting. Has been unable to sustain a run above the 200 pretty much ever. Same thing with the BTC pair. Just watching this stair step down, this looks like it wants to go to new lows again. Even if it breaks out, is it going to break 36K sats? Because that's what it needs to do. What I'd be watching for is if it goes to 36K, how long does it consolidate? If it breaks lows, how long does it consolidate? Is there a bull div that you could watch for here? That would be a stronger buy for me than breaking 29K. There's a trade from 29K to 36K, sure. But anything after that, I don't know, right? Like it's ranged for 8 months here. It's ranged for 8 months here. You're really going to want to sit in EOS for 8 months, hoping that it goes higher. Maybe you do. I don't know. It's not for me. And this USD pair is just nothing, right? There's no trade there. It's an avoid. Tron, much like BNB, sadly looks okay. As much as it pains my soul to say that. It's far away from the 200, so there's definitely a strong mean reversion potential. But you can't deny this bull run, it looks good. I don't know how much more it has in the tank, but it looks good. And the same thing with the BTC pair. I don't know how much more it has in the tank. This could pull an ADA and just retrace 40%, catch up with the 200. It's not a buy for me, but a case can be made, certainly, for higher highs here. You could call this a flag on low time frames. I don't know. But both of these look decent, especially compared to anything else we've looked at chart-wise, and anything else we're going to look at. This looks pretty good. Stellar, again, at 200, below cloud. Uninteresting. BTC pair, way below the 200. This is on the 2-day and below the cloud. The reason I zoom out on some of these is because if it's been ranging for over a year, you're going to get a lot of noise on the lower time frame trend metrics. So just go to the 2-day. Then you can say, all right, it's still below the cloud, still below the 200, which is actually the 400 on the daily. And it's not a buy until it's back above 1,000 sats. Set an alert, be done with it, forget about it. Because right now it's probably just going to keep ranging. Lots of VPVR volume, support resistance, whatever. I don't expect it to go to all-time lows. I just expect it to range into nothingness. And the USD pair is just unexciting. Like I said, below 200, below cloud. No real strong bull trend there any way you measure it. Tezos is looking dangerous in that it's below the 200, below the cloud, kind of for the first time since March, and historically has recovered. So it's got that going for it. You can't convincingly buy it here though, right? I mean, maybe you can. Maybe you're a Brightman maximalist or something, but this is just an ugly reversal from that 450 top. Just super hard denial. And this is just impressive in the duration and range, but it's also at lows here. So it's bounce or die territory for sure. If this doesn't bounce, it's headed to 20K sats, most definitely. There's an R&R case to be made, risk reward case to be made that this is, if you're going to buy it, this is where you buy it, right? You believe in the range until it breaks. I'm still holding it. I'm concerned for sure that it breaks this range. It doesn't really have anything going for it at the moment. It's not DeFi. It's not exciting. It's just staking. Yeah, so it doesn't look great. I couldn't convince somebody to get into this based on the trend metrics or where this sits on this range. Monero looks definitely on the better, more bullish side of all these charts. It's above the 200. It's above the cloud. This TK cross is bullet bearish. So you'd want to wait for these metrics to reset. This may take a month, but it's a signal to watch for sure because you're looking at, again, Wyckoff accumulation type of stuff where you get these highs, you get these lows, you get a spring, and price likes to begin markup at the highs if accumulation is real. So you've got that to consider. You've got the $100 psychological resistance to consider. You've also got this weird harmonic to consider. When we look at Zcash, that one's a little more obvious, but there's definitely some sort of harmonic here, bat, cipher, I don't know. There's all sorts of animals and names and stuff. So this may continue to retrace to 69 or something. I don't know. But I'd set an alert for this for sure. Just watch over the next month. Watch for these trend metrics to flip bullish again, because I think once it does that, it'll have a shot at strongly breaking 100. And the BTC pair looks better than most BTC pairs. Probably the best among the charts I'm looking at other than BNB and Tron. Above the 200, above the cloud. Tons of range, but trend-wise, it is bullish. So you can't deny that. I would like it above 009, 0088, whatever this yearly pivot is. Then it'll be certainly more convincing that 012 becomes a possibility. Neo also surprisingly bullish. Again, you have this Wyckofian structure, spring at the highs. It's trying its markup phase. It's Kijun bounced successfully. Sure, it's far away from the 200, but it looks good. I can't stand Neo or anything the project stands for, but in a vacuum, it looks pretty good. And the BTC pair is at local highs again today, new local high. There's a bit of a TKC clamp here. Now this is hard to see zoomed out, but you can see, similar to being far away from the 200 EMA, that you have to be cautious when it's this overbought this quickly. And if anything, this is another case for buying alts when they're low and ranging and just waiting, because typically they do break out. You know, you can buy anything on a spike down on an 80% drop in 2 days, right? But to buy this and have the patience to hold it for 8 months, 6 months, whatever, and then start to unload it when it starts to move, it's kind of a different mindset. There's a bear div here as well. Higher highs, lower momentum. So I don't think this goes much higher, and it will retrace eventually, but it does look super bull for sure. DOT, the first one of the VC dumping ground coins. I can't get behind any of this. Just the volume profile is perfect because it says, look at all these people selling at the highs. Guess who these people were? These people were the people who got in early and have some unvested DOT that they just can't wait to dump on people. And it's pretty obvious, right? Tons of volume at 620. It's just hard to get behind this from any perspective, because now you've got people waiting to sell at 620, but you've also got people waiting to sell at anything above the current price forever. And the same thing with the BTC pair. Tons of selling and ranging at the highs. Doesn't mean this can't go higher, obviously. And eventually the sellers will run out of coins to sell. But if the vesting is slowly unlocked, which it is for coins like Hashgraph, where the vesting schedule is years long, the market will constantly have to overcome that for prices to maintain highs. Just supply and demand. Looking at Cosmos, kind of all over the place again, trend-wise. It's above the 200, it's above the cloud, it's below the key June. It's had this massive pullback. Is this a buy for me ever in any situation? No, it's not. I'd like to see the trend metrics completely reset here at this point. More so than Monero. This is just, it needs time. It probably needs 3 weeks minimum to figure out what's going on here. If the trend metrics can reset, then you're Gucci. You're good. Otherwise, this is too rangy to make a decision. It's too volatile to make a decision one way or the other. Do you want to risk buying a, whatever this is, 20% pullback, even though there isn't really a trend anymore? That's up to you. It's not for me. Leo, something I've never really looked at. Man, this market doesn't look real at all. First of all, tons of people selling at 130, 129, whatever that is. Just probably algorithmic stuff. There are probably some buyers at $1 just based on the fundamentals of the coin. I'm not going to get into it, but there will probably be buyers at $1 and sellers slightly above $1. Trend-wise, this looks the most bearish it's looked since January. Below the 200, below the cloud. Looks ready for $1 to me. And BTC pair heavily ranging. Not really a buy there at all. If we look at YFI on the 4-hour, in a vacuum, certainly impressive on a trend basis because it hit the highs, broke down, had this Adam and Eve, trend metrics reset, and now it's back at highs. I know nothing about how this works, so I'd certainly be cautious with rebasing or whatever farming garbage is going on here. But this does look pretty good for higher highs. Now, there is definitely a bearish divergence. Wait, just kidding. There will likely be a bearish divergence. It hasn't formed yet because we haven't had a higher high in price. There's a better case for a bearish divergence here because you're getting a equal high or higher high with a lower RSI, lower volume. And when I'm talking about trend metrics resetting, this is exactly what you want to see. You want to see price dip into cloud, do whatever, make some decision, in this case, and again, an Adam and Eve, VU, and you want to see price breakout above the cloud again. So anytime I'm talking about Monero or Cosmos doing a trend reset, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So there's a strong case to be made that this is a very good buy here, but fundamentally, I don't think that's correct based on what I do or do not know about YFI. In a vacuum chart looks great. UMA, trendless mess. This is on the hourly, so a lot can happen between now and the hour it takes me to upload this video. But this isn't a strong buy, really. It's just sideways, trendless. And anytime, this is on OKEx, by the way, and anytime someone says anything about any volume from any Chinese exchange, you have to realize it's probably fake. And this is why. Look at how the volume magically explodes, magically disappears, magically explodes again, and then is magically the same level for multiple days. That isn't a real market. That isn't what it should look like. You expect high volumes at drops, not this like bipolar. I don't know. Nothing about this is organic. Completely false, made up, fake, unregulated garbage. Okay, just keep that in mind when people are talking about Huobi volumes, OKEx volumes. Any of these volumes on any Chinese exchange, completely fake. And you don't need me to tell you that. You can just look at it. NEM, really strong move off of the Kumo breakout, 200 EMA breakout, something that I really didn't ever watch because I kind of wrote it off, but it's done well, surprisingly. And this is the 2-day. It had this nice W double bottom and just exploded kind of out of nowhere. They do have a chain migration coming up. They're like rebranding and adding a bunch of stuff. So my guess is after that happens, this will, much like ADA, begin to retrace 40%. Like it'll be a brutal retracement. There's even a case to be made for another harmonic here. Maybe a crab or something. I don't know. You'd have to look it up. But resistance at the yearly pivots, that's what I like to see for pullbacks to sell. I'm not in this one, never was. So if you're a NEM maximalist, you do you, bro. But based on distance from the 200, this looks dangerously overbought. Aave Lend, just again, not something I understand very well, so it's hard to really know what's going on here outside of the chart. But it's had 2 to 4 Kijun bounces. Again, if you're on your deserted island looking at a chart, know nothing about anything else, you're saying, okay, that was the buy. Bullish continuation is expected, so long as trend metrics are bullish. Based on distance from the 200, certainly massively overbought. and at risk for heavy mean reversion, but that doesn't mean it can't keep going. And it certainly just has done that, right? Historically this year. It even broke out of the parabolic up move. Like, you just don't see that often. So a 50% drop would not surprise me, but I don't think you can just expect that right now because of how strong this has moved and how much it's held the technicals, even on the USD pair. It's just bounced every time you'd expect it to bounce. So it's not really a buy for me, but it's a decent case for just continuation. There is a bearish divergence starting to form here, I think, on a higher high. Certainly was a bear div here. So this looks like it's starting to lose some momentum, lose some steam. But man, just technically beautiful, textbook. Dash, much like many altcoins like LTC, just kind of middle of the road on the USD pair. Definitely bearish trend-wise, non-trending ranging mess. BTC pair best case would be an Adam and Eve. This would take probably 3 months or more to confirm. So just set an alert at 011 and forget about it. That's really going to be where people are going to start looking at it. 011, 014, that whole range. If it gets back into the cloud, that sort of thing. Because right now it's, it's not really doing anything. SNX had this golden cross in April, May, and it's done what you'd expect golden crosses to do, and it's moved up way beyond all-time highs in price discovery. Yearly pivot's at 34.50. I don't expect it to go that high, but hey, who am I to say? Especially with the volume picking up the way it has. This is on KuCoin, another exchange not to be trusted, so the volume is what the volume is, but it certainly looked bullish. Obviously, it's a better buy at the bullish cross, right? Like, buying it up here is a risk with expectations of all-time highs. But trend-wise, it does look pretty good on the BTC pair as well. I'm not comfortable buying up here. I'm definitely more comfortable buying the Kijun bounces, but this today just so happens to be the day I'm looking at it, so that's my analysis. ETC, strong avoid forever. It's been 51% attacked at least 4 or 5 times. It should not be listed anywhere. Nobody should be buying it. It's a dead coin. You lost, ETC community. Sorry. Sorry, IOHK. Sorry, Barry. Sorry, Charles. It's dead. Let it die. It's a goner. It's at all-time lows or whatever. Who cares? Yeah, just never buy that, in my opinion. Zcash, when I look for harmonics, this is a perfect example. Again, you'll have to look them up. I'm not an expert on them. I don't ever use them ever. But when they're relevant, oh man, are they relevant? So this is a bat or a shark or something. I don't know. It's mean reverted. It's had this volume support. I want to see trend metrics reset before I touch this personally. They're certainly worth us taking a stab based on mean reversion, but trend-wise, it's neutral or bearish. Same thing with the BTC pair. Again, there's a case to be made for some sort of harmonic here, crab, something. And the way this works is once you have the 3 points of the harmonic, you can use the harmonics to determine where the 4th point would be and where your short entries would be in this case. And then you can also use that harmonic to inform you on the pullback potential once the harmonic is confirmed. Lots of volume between 0037 and 006, so I don't expect this to break all-time lows or anything, but it's trendless, unexciting, not really a buy here for me. VeChain, same thing. I want to see trend metrics reset. It's clearly mean reverted, just like ADA, especially on the BTC pair, down whatever it is, 40, 50%. This just needs some time, 3 weeks probably. Let all the trend metrics reset. Watch for that bullish divergence like I was talking about on any lower low. Definitely would be a good knife catch on that because it's mean reverted. It's tapping the yearly pivot on the USD pairs case. And it had this double bottom. So even if it goes to like 100 sats with a bullish divergence, which probably be a little low for a bullish divergence, but possible, then it would be a buy just based on technicals. Looking at ONT, it actually looks pretty good. I don't know anything about it. I've never traded it, but it's dropped with everything in March, recovered most of that, like 85% of that, dropped again, recovering again past mean reversion. So definitely something I'll be putting on my watch list just to see what's going on with it trend wise, because if these metrics reset bullish, it should be good to go for higher highs past $1. And on the 2-day ONT chart, it's definitely got some vibes of inverted head and shoulders mess, right? Like shoulder, head, shoulders coming. Anything above 10K sats would be go time most likely because it would be above the cloud, above the 200. So it'll take some time. It's a 2 day. It's a slow signal, slow mover, but it's definitely worth watching for sure. Probably one of the better potential entries out of any chart I'm looking at is on this 2 day ONT BTC chart. OMG, much like many of these other alts I've mentioned, it looks ripe for heavy mean reversion. In this case, on the BTC chart to like 20K sats, on the USD chart to like $2 probably, 150, $2 somewhere in there, based on 200, based on volume support, just way oversold or way overbought way too quickly. This isn't really a trend. It's just sort of like euphoria that's gonna crash hard, right? Like the MDMA or whatever's worn off at this point. It's the next morning, and not that I've ever taken MDMA. I don't know what that's like, but I'm just saying this is reminiscent of euphoria just wearing off, right? Comp on the 4 hour, a bit of a trendless mess. I don't know much to say about it. Fundamentally, don't really know much about it, but it's definitely not technically what you'd want to buy until it's above the cloud, above the 200. I'd love to see just more time on this. Give this 2 weeks for me, and I'll come revisit this because the breakout potential in 2 weeks is much greater than it would be right now. Even if this goes sideways for 2 weeks, that's what you want to see. You might start putting in higher lows. That's fine. So in 2 weeks, your buy for my buy would be above the 200, above the cloud. This is the 4 hour, so just keep that in mind. And then the other buy would be above this horizontal 022 BTC, 260, 250. Those are the levels I'd watch for some serious bullish price action past that. Maker, garbled mess on the USD pair. It's never really trended. So it's hard to buy this ever really. And the BTC pair has trended bearish, and that's pretty much it. So again, not really a convincing buy for any reason ever. 0x has mean reverted. It's still above the cloud, still above the 200, but it's not in a spot where I'd want to buy it. Trend metrics need to reset. Give it a couple weeks. Same thing with the BTC pair. Trend metrics need to reset. Give it a couple weeks. It's kind of a bad time for me to do this video because all these are like, there's no there for any of them. But at the very least, you can say, I'm going to put this on my watch list, and over the next week or two, I'm going to pay attention to the cloud, see what's going on, if prices can recover, because that's certainly possible. And then all of these would be a buy based on cloud stuff. DOGE on the weekly it hasn't been above the cloud since 2018. So, that's really where you're watching on the USD pair. Is it ever going to be above the cloud ever again? That's the question. Same thing with the weekly. BTC pair, had some excitement with the TikTok people a few weeks ago, but now it's just back to range lows. I think anything above 33 sats is where you start to get excited again, but otherwise, at this point, you're just hoping to buy all-time lows, basically at like 10 sats or less. That would be where I'd be comfortable buying it. But really, this hasn't ever been above the cloud either for any reasonable amount of time. I think this may start to move if BTC hits all-time highs again. Once BTC is near all-time highs and people start rotating into alts, I think that's when you'll see this move, if it does ever move again, to the upside past 30, 40 sats. ALGO, again, it's mean reverted. Trend metrics reset. Got to give it time. Give it a week or two. Come back to it. Revisit. Same thing with the BTC pair. Bearish TK cross. Price below cloud. Price hit the 200. I mean, this is all basic trend stuff at this point. Watch for a bullish divergence on any lower low, but it needs time. SUSHI, man. SUSHI on trend looks bearish to neutral on the hourly, so anything could happen in the next hour, obviously. But there's no pattern here. There's nothing on the USD chart and on the BTC chart. It just looks sad. Obviously, they had a big fundamental event over the past week, so the market will need time to recalibrate to new SUSHI fundamentals. But trend-wise, this is more of a buy above $3 than it is now. And on the BTC pair, anything above 28K sats is more of a buy. I mean, you can just draw a horizontal here and say, all right, there's my level to watch, put an alert on it and forget about it. And then lastly, looking at Balancer, pretty decent case for an edge to edge on the hourly, 2 hour here to 28. So that's a decent move. I'm not going to play it, probably because I can't, but the case to be made for additional upside is certainly there. It would be a trend reversal trade, not a trend continuation trade, just so keep that in mind. But the edge to edge looks possible. So if you made it to the end, like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Comment below if you liked or disliked the video. I answer all the comments. If you have any questions, let me know, and happy trading.